If you have seen Goodfellas, you have watched these characters pull, carry, hide, and fire 12 different firearms across 3 decades of story. You probably recognized a few right away, maybe wondered about others, and if you are anything like us, you rewound a couple scenes to get a better look. We are identifying everyone from the opening trunk scene to the final drug bust, covering what they are, why they were picked, and what Scorsese is really saying through each one. This video examines firearms strictly as historical movie props and within a film analysis context. It is not about real-world use, tactics, or instruction. If you notice when movies nail the details or completely miss them, this is the kind of channel to subscribe to. 12 guns counted down. Here we go. Number 12 is the Smith & Wesson Model 61S Gordon .22 long rifle. This one shows up during Henry's frantic 1980 drug montage, stuffed inside a bag of guns he's trying to move for Jimmy. The Model 61 was produced from 1970 to 1973 as a subcompact pocket pistol. Smith & Wesson designed it for personal defense, and it was honestly a commercial failure. The gun was tiny, chambered in .22 long rifle, and held 5 rounds in a small magazine. It was affordable and reliable enough, but it never caught on with the wider market. In the film, Jimmy tries to fit a suppressor onto it and the thing does not work. That small moment of frustration adds texture to the scene. Henry is scrambling, moving guns and drugs on the same day, and even his equipment is failing him. Scorsese uses this beat to show how far Henry has fallen from the organized, confident hustler he used to be. The prop department chose well here because the Model 61 looks exactly like what it is. A cheap, last resort kind of firearm. Number 11 is the Beretta Cheetah, specifically the Model 87BB, also in .22 long rifle. Henry sells this one to a contact in Pittsburgh during the same stretch of the film. Beretta introduced the Cheetah line in 1976 out of Italy. It was a compact blowback-operated pistol known for smooth handling and low recoil. The .22 long rifle chambering made it popular for recreational shooting and as a backup carry piece. In the context of Goodfellas, Henry selling a Beretta to someone in Pittsburgh shows his desperation. He is no longer pulling off big heists or running profitable schemes. He is nickel and diming his way through the drug trade, selling individual handguns to stay afloat. Scorsese frames these transactions as unglamorous and rushed, the opposite of lavish restaurant scenes from earlier in the film. Number 10 is the Ivor Johnson .380. During the drug bust in 1980, Karen hides this small nickel-plated pistol in her underwear. The Ivor Johnson was a clone of the Star Model DK, an affordable Spanish import from the 1970s designed for concealed carry. It was a budget option, widely available, and small enough to tuck away almost anywhere. Karen hiding it during the arrest is one of the more memorable details of that scene. She is resourceful and tough, and this moment shows she's been fully absorbed into the criminal lifestyle. The gun itself is unremarkable, which is the point. It is a cheap, practical tool, and the fact that Karen has one on her person during a federal bust says everything about how normalized weapons have become in their household. Scorsese lets the audience sit with that realization without overplaying it. The prop choice reinforces the idea that in this world, everyone is armed, even the wives, even during the worst possible moment. Number 9 is the Heckler Koch P9S in 9mm. This German-made pistol also appears in Henry's gun bag during the 1980 helicopter paranoia sequence. The P9S came out in 1969 and used a roller-delayed blowback system, which was advanced for its time. It saw use with special operations units like the Navy SEALs and Germany's GSG-9. The gun was accurate, reliable, and well-suited for use with suppressors because of its locking mechanism. In the American criminal underworld, the P9S was rare. It was expensive and hard to source compared to surplus military pistols. The fact that Henry has one in his bag suggests connections to higher-end arms trafficking. Scorsese includes it briefly, almost as set dressing, but it fits the paranoid energy of the sequence. Henry is carrying multiple weapons, looking over his shoulder, convinced a helicopter is following him. The P9S is just one more object in a day that is spinning out of control. Number 8 is the Astra Constable in .380 ACP. After Henry gets out of prison in the late 1970s, he keeps this pistol close, holding it in bed and carrying it to the driveway. The Astra Constable was a Spanish design from 1969, inspired by the Walther PPK. It was a double-action, single-action compact pistol built for concealed carry. Reliable and accurate, it was an affordable alternative to its German counterpart. For Henry, the Astra represents a shift in his entire way of life. He is no longer the confident associate walking into the Copacabana through the back door. He is scared, looking over his shoulder, sleeping with a loaded gun. Scorsese films these moments quietly, without any dramatic music or action. The gun just sits there, a constant reminder that Henry's glamorous life has been replaced by fear. The Astra Constable is the perfect visual shorthand for that transformation. Number 7 covers two related firearms, the Browning High Power in 9mm and the FN Browning High Power with a nickel finish. Henry carries the standard version in a bag full of silencers he is delivering for Jimmy. Later, an undercover officer uses the nickel-plated version during Henry's arrest. The High Power has a long history. John Browning and Dieudonné Sive designed it, and it entered production in 1935. With a 13-round magazine capacity, it served in over 50 militaries worldwide. Surplus models flooded the civilian market after World War II, making them easy to find in the United States. The High Power's high capacity made it appealing for organized crime. 13 rounds of 9mm was a lot for that era. Henry carrying one alongside suppressors paints a clear picture of how deep he is in the weapons trade. The irony of an undercover cop also using a high power during the arrest is something Scorsese lets play out without comment, and it works perfectly. People who pay attention to movie details usually have opinions about this. I'm interested where you land. Number 6 involves the Smith & Wesson Model 64 and the Smith & Wesson Model 60, both in .38 Special. In one of the film's most tense domestic scenes, Karen holds a revolver to Henry's face after discovering his affair. The prop starts as a Model 64, a stainless steel version of the classic Model 10 that Smith & Wesson introduced in 1970 for police departments. In some shots, it switches to a Model 60, the stainless J-frame that came out in 1965. This is a known continuity error, but it hardly matters in context. The scene is about Karen's rage and desperation, and the revolver is the instrument through which she channels it. Small .38 revolvers were common in mob households for personal protection, and Karen having access to one feels natural. Scorsese uses this moment to show how violence has infected every part of these characters' lives, even the bedroom. Number 5 is the Stevens 311R sawed-off double-barreled shotgun in 12 gauge. Henry carries this during a truck hijacking in the 1960s, pointing it at the driver. Savage Arms produced the 311 series from 1920 to 1988 after acquiring Stevens. The 311R was a riot variant with short 18.25-inch barrels, and sawed-off versions cut them down even further. In Italian, this type of weapon is called a lupera, which translates roughly to wolf hunter. It dates back to 19th century Sicily, where it was used for hunting and personal vendettas. Sicilian-American crime families carried that tradition to the United States, using luperas for symbolic executions and enforcement. The sawed-off shotgun was regulated under the National Firearms Act of 1934, but that did not stop it from circulating widely in the criminal underworld. Henry, using one during his early hijacking days, connects him to old-world traditions. Number 4 is the Smith & Wesson Model 66 in .357 Magnum. Tommy hides this revolver in a paper bag during a truck hijacking sequence set in the 1960s. He fires it into the air to scare the drivers into compliance. Smith & Wesson debuted the Model 66 in 1970 as a stainless steel version of the Model 19. It was built on the K-frame, weighed about 36 ounces, and held 6 rounds of .357 Magnum, a cartridge that had been around since 1935. The .357 round offered serious penetration, enough to punch through car doors and light body armor. Law enforcement loved the Model 66 for its durability. There is a slight timeline issue here since the Model 66 did not exist before 1970. and the hijacking scene is set in the 1960s. Scorsese compresses timelines throughout the film, so this is a minor point. Tommy firing into the air with a .357 is pure intimidation. He does not need to shoot anyone. The sound alone does the work. Scorsese frames this moment as part of a heist montage that feels exciting on the surface, but carries an undercurrent of recklessness. Number 3 is the Colt Combat Commander in .45 ACP. Tommy uses a suppressed version to execute Stax Edwards in his apartment after the Lufthansa heist goes sideways. The Combat Commander debuted in 1950 as a lighter, shorter version of the M1911 with a 4.25-inch barrel instead of the standard 5 inches. The steel frame Combat Commander came along in 1970. Colt designed it for military officers who needed something more compact, and it quickly became popular in competitive shooting circles as well. Attaching a suppressor to a .45 ACP pistol was effective, because the standard .45 round is already subsonic, meaning it travels below the speed of sound. That makes suppression much more efficient compared to faster calibers. Tommy entering Stax's apartment with a suppressed Combat Commander is one of the most methodical killings in the film. There is no argument, no build-up. He walks in and does it. Scorsese films it in a cold, detached style that matches the weapon's clinical efficiency. Tommy sees himself as a professional, a future-made man, and this scene reflects that self-image even as his actions guarantee his eventual downfall. Number 2 is the Colt M1911A1 in .45 ACP. Tommy pulls this from his waistband during a card game and shoots Spider, first in the foot during an earlier scene and then fatally in a later one. John Browning designed the original M1911 in 1911, and the A1 update came in 1924 with improved ergonomics. It was the standard U.S. military sidearm for over 70 years, serving through both World Wars, Korea, and Vietnam. Over 2.7 million were produced during World War II alone. The 7+1 capacity in .45 ACP delivered heavy stopping power, and surplus models were everywhere in post-war America. The M1911A1 was one of the most common firearms in organized crime during this period. It was easy to acquire, powerful, and iconic. Tommy shooting Spider at the card table is one of the film's most shocking scenes. What starts as a joke escalates to murder in seconds, and everyone at the table just has to deal with it. The M1911A1 in Tommy's hands represents pure impulsive violence. There is no strategy, no reason. Scorsese reportedly based this scene closely on real events, and the gun's presence grounds it in a specific, believable reality. One detail worth noting is that Tommy fires 6 shots from the M1911A1, which holds 7+1. That tracks. But earlier in the film, he fires 7 shots from the 5-shot Model 36 at Spider's foot, which is a confirmed continuity error. And number 1 is the Smith & Wesson Model 36 snub-nose revolver in .38 Special. This is the gun that opens the film and the one that appears more than any other throughout the story. The movie begins in 1970, with Jimmy Conway calmly firing a Model 36 into the trunk of a car where Billy Batts is still alive. From there, it shows up in flashbacks to the 1950s and 1960s. Tommy carries one during hijackings. Henry uses one to pistol whip a neighbor who assaults Karen. It appears in over 7 scenes across the entire timeline. Smith & Wesson introduced the Model 36 in 1950 as the Chief Special. It was a 5-shot, J-frame revolver with a 2-inch snub nose barrel, chambered in .38 Special. It weighed about 19 ounces unloaded, making it one of the most concealable revolvers on the market. The .38 Special cartridge dates back to 1898 and offered solid stopping power with manageable recoil. By the 1990s, Smith & Wesson had produced over 6 million of these. In the New York underworld, snub-nose .38s were standard equipment. They were cheap, reliable, small enough to hide in a coat pocket, and difficult to trace through ballistics because they were so common. Tommy DeVito's character, based on real-life associate Thomas DeSimone, would have carried exactly this kind of weapon. Scorsese makes the Model 36 almost a recurring character in the film. It is there for beatings, intimidations, and murders. Jimmy's calm, methodical shots into the trunk in the opening scene set the tone for everything that follows. The violence is casual, almost boring to the people committing it. That is the point Scorsese drives home again and again. These men treat lethal force as routine. The small, unassuming revolver is the perfect prop to carry that theme. Every firearm in Goodfellas serves a purpose beyond the action on screen. From surplus military pistols to cheap pocket guns, Scorsese matched each weapon to its era, its character, and its moment in the story. The result is a film where the props tell you something true about the world it portrays.